Pete Feenstra, rock in your world. On Get Ready to Rock Radio.
This is the Pete Feenstra feature for Get Ready to Rock Radio. Welcome to the show. Tonight I'm speaking to the powerhouse blues rock vocalist, singer-songwriter and New York Blues Hall of Fame inductee, Sari Schorr. We're talking about her brand new Live in Europe album on Manhattan Records. A trained opera singer, Sari had already made a name for herself by touring with the likes of Joe Louis Walker and Papa Chubby, before being championed by the legendary blues producer Mike Vernon, who oversaw her suitably titled Force of Nature debut album. Since that time she's cut the critically acclaimed Never Say Never, and now comes the Live in Europe album, which we will be talking about tonight. So here is Sari Schorr and a barnstormer of a track called New Revolution.
Thank you so much.
That was Sari Schorr and New Revolution from the album Live in Europe on Manhattan Records. Welcome to the show, Sari.
Good evening, Pete. Thank you. So nice to be with you, although we are sheltered apart.
Yeah, we all are that now, unfortunately. Must have been a doubly frustrating time for you then, as you were on the cusp of releasing your first live album, and then following that, one of your biggest ever tours, and that was abandoned after 2 gigs, I believe.
You're exactly right. We made it. Our opening show was March 6th in Belgium. Then we got to the Netherlands, and by the time we got to Austria, different countries throughout Europe were already starting to close down, and it felt like we were back in the Sound of Music. We were escaping all the way back to the UK. Spent 2 days on the road to get back. And luckily I was able to get a flight back to New York and got in really before things started to close down and get very serious.
Well, that's a great analogy.
We're lucky. Yeah, we have to be grateful that everyone was safe and we made it through healthy. So, that's really, the thing that we're trying to focus on.
Yeah. Now, you've been described as the following, a red-hot rock singer who radiates emotional intensity, connects with and inspires her audiences, and leaves a lasting impression that's larger than life.
So you can't believe everything you read.
Right, yeah, but all that is really apparent on that uplifting song we just played, New Revolution, into which you seem to pour a lot of emotion and inspiration into your performance, as well as just the song. Is it ever difficult then to charge yourself up, perhaps when you're halfway through a long and arduous tour?
Well, I never ever forget what a privilege it is to do what I do, and because of that, when you never lose sight of how lucky you are to do a job you love for people you love, it really is never hard to find the energy, the inspiration. The audience gives abundantly their love and support for us, so they really make it easy.
Yeah.
And you're only as good as your last performance. And when you commit yourself to being in the moment with your audience and trying to deliver on a promise that you've made to people who have come out to be there for you, then that's easy work.
Okay, yeah, that's a good comment. Yeah. This album features 7 songs from Never Say Never and 3 from Force of Nature. Do you think you've kind of found your own equilibrium now, struck a balance with what I'm still calling the new band, but in fact you've been together a few years now?
Yeah, it's interesting you picked up on that, because it was finding that balance was really difficult, because now we're getting to a point where we have an abundance of material to choose from, and new interpretations, of the material by the new band, and just, finding that sweet spot really took, I think, the better part of the first year that we were together. But
Wow.
we've really gelled and come together where there's just, such an incredible sense of communication with each other on stage, and deep respect that we have for each other. We are a touring family, and I'm really so proud of the guys for being able to deliver 100% of themselves every time we take to the stage, and then finding the balance between what material to pull from the debut album and the new album, and the other covers that we infuse into the set too. It's been a lot of work, a lot of discussion, a lot of trial and error. Yeah, but I think we're there.
Yeah, I think you are. And, we'll talk more about the album in a moment, but I think all your qualities, your dramatic qualities, if I can call them that, are perfectly aligned with the band's intuitive interplay, which can only come from doing loads of gigs, of course, and playing great music, of course. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, apart from the 2 unplugged bonus tracks that you've got on there, the live set was recorded at the following places: Rapperswil Jona, the Blues and Jazz Festival in Switzerland. That was on the 14th of June 2019. The Elizabeth Hall, in Hook, which is the 28th of September 2019. And the Water Rats in London on the 4th of November 2019. So you seem to have sent out a kind of a confident statement by recording some of this album very early on in the tour. What was the thinking behind that, rather than maybe waiting until you'd had a few more tour dates under your belt?
Oh, I'm really glad you were asked this question. The reason was we wanted this record to be raw.
Yeah.
We weren't looking for perfection in the performances. We wanted to do a live album that would be as honest as possible, and catching the recordings earlier in the tour would facilitate this vision that we had.
Right.
So
that's
why we did it that way.
I think it works. Thinking about all the material in general then, and more specifically about a cover like Black Betty, where you hit that incredible note in the middle of the song, leading to a pregnant pause. Do you ever use moments like that to gauge your connection with the crowd, or indeed the popularity of a song in the set list?
First of all, that moment that you speak of is one of my most fearful moments of the whole show.
Yeah, hitting the note. Yeah.
It is a challenging. It is a challenging song to deliver, and to deliver it properly. But what I am really trying to focus on is just being the best storyteller that I can be. And I am so wrapped up in the story, and that's where the emotion comes from. Right. Because if you are really connected to the core of what that song is trying to express, then I'm just trying to get out of the way and let that story come to life.
Yeah, quite a few songwriters say that, but they don't all have your singing ability, of course. But it's an interesting point. Now, the album was recorded, mixed and mastered by your co-writer Henning Gerke, or Gerke, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Gerke. Sorry, Henning. Yeah. You used to write and record together previously, earlier on in your career. So what's different this time round in terms of your songwriting approach?
The biggest difference, I would say, is when we were working on the first album. This was before I was touring with my own band.
Yeah.
So the second album has come after I have spent a lot of time touring all over the world, and I know who my audience is. So when I was writing the second album, I was actually thinking, picturing, different people I had met and different faces I had seen, and thinking, what is the conversation I want to have with very specific people. So that allowed me to feel more comfortable in opening up and sharing a little bit more of my personal story,
Yeah.
because I knew who I was talking to. It didn't seem as though I was just writing in my own cocoon. I was actually connecting with specific people that I know are, belong to my audience family.
Yeah. So, thinking about the album in general, did you have a problem kind of figuring out what to leave out from your current back catalogue, such as it is? I'm thinking particularly of songs like Maybe I'm Fooling might have been one you've had in there, or indeed Beautiful, which is, as the title suggests, is a beautiful song.
Yeah, that is always a problem. And, my band keeps saying, this is a good problem to have, having
true, yeah.
too much material. So we are, always trying to rotate songs in and out so that all the songs, get equal exposure. We have not yet brought Beautiful into the set,
right,
because I just can't find a position for it because firstly, it was also one of the hardest songs for me to record,
right,
and I don't know that I've quite figured out how to vocalize that song in a live setting. It's a very tricky song because it's so easy to oversing that one.
Right.
And I just haven't really found the right opportunity in the set. But we're going to be doing some more acoustic shows, so I think that there's going to be an appropriate context to set that song up in the right way.
Well, we're talking about acoustic. You also do an acoustic version of King of Rock and Roll, which is another one of your absolutely splendid songs, and of course on this album it's unplugged and at the end, and could easily have been part of the live set, but you've already explained this now. So I also realised, because of YouTube, etc., not many artists include new material on live albums anymore, but maybe a couple of acoustic versions might have worked of new material, but that's not going to happen now anyway, so let's move on.
Well, something definitely for the future.
Yeah, let's hope so. That's a good idea. Before I come to the next question, I want to make it clear that this is a great document of a busy tour band. But there are a couple of things I would want you to clear up if possible. But on both New Revolution and Demolition Man, both of those songs have got a kind of a studio type fade out on the end, which almost kind of robs the listener of the essential connection between band and audience, I think.
Yeah, so very perceptive of you. So what happened was there were, unfortunately, as happens with many live recordings, we had some technical problems on the board, and there was some digital noise that was inescapable, and we were not able to salvage certain segues because the digital noise was so pronounced on certain songs and not on others. The engineers still don't know what happened, but we were not able to keep certain segues intact, so we had to take New Revolution from one set and then Damn the Reason from a different show.
Right.
So that's why, and we didn't want, to lie about the fact that those weren't performed as a segue, so that was our...
It's no big thing. It just comes back to that relationship of you being such a animated performer, and the fact that the crowd feed off of that, and after such an impressive opening track, that would have been the perfect finish, but there's not a problem. You just mentioned acoustic sessions. Have you done many leading into this album then?
We hadn't done too many. We did a few when we supported Robin Trower and King. Yeah. And we're going to do more of that because it really allows me to tell the story of the songs in a different way.
Right.
And there are, subtle things that I can do with phrasing and melody to create a nuanced interpretation that is a bit different than full instrumental versions of songs. So it allows me to sort of dissect the songs and reintroduce them in a different way. So it's challenging as hell to do it, but that I love being a little scared.
Okay.
When
put yourself on the edge.
Material we're comfortable with.
Yeah. Now the other unplugged bonus track is your cover of Mick Ralph's "Ready to Love." Do you see covers such as that and Black Betty as a way to draw people into your own music then, through your reinterpreting of those familiar songs?
It definitely makes it easier.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information you're throwing at people when you're giving them songs that are musically, lyrically, vocally intense, and I think everybody needs a little bit of a break by going to something that's familiar, because there's comfort in that sense of familiarity, and then this way there's a lot less interference between me and the listener, and it definitely does help.
Now, you've got a 5-octave vocal range and an operatic background with classical voice training, but does the fact that you obviously enjoy fronting a band, improvising and at times reinterpreting songs mean that you are naturally more drawn to blues rock than any other particularly formal kind of music?
Absolutely. When I was studying classical music, I had a Juilliard teacher that was begging me to go into opera,
right.
But it was far, far too structured and disciplined for my personality. And when I finally discovered blues rock, because I initially was into jazz,
right.
But I tried so hard to be a great jazz singer, but it wasn't working. And when I finally discovered the classic female blues singers, it was the key, really, that unlocked me as a singer, as a vocalist, and it really gave me my foundation.
Good stuff.
I really try to write about things that hurt, and that are more painful, because
it's the blues.
And I think this is, we all in our lives know what it is to suffer and to feel uncertain and unsure about your life and the choices you've made, and I think it has more value for people if I'm talking about things that are painful for myself, because everyone can relate to it. Generally, the way we write is Henning will be working on some chords, and he'll either be working on guitar or keyboards, and then we together will start formulating a melody, and I'll just start singing nonsensical words over it. And then once we have a melody that's clearly established, then I go off on my own and I write the lyric, because we tend to write very quickly together, but the lyrics are the thing that really take time. You've got to roll up your sleeves and find creative ways to write something that's been said 1,000 times already.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I've seen some of your lyrics, and you're a wonderful lyricist, so you know what I'm talking about when I say it's not an easy job.
That certainly isn't.
Every time something negative happens,
it's fuel for the fire.
Exactly. It's not only a source of inspiration, but I know when I'm hurting, it is an opportunity for growth. Okay. Because if you feel okay, you don't change. There's no reason to change. And it's only through these, really challenging experiences that we go through in life that we're confronted with an opportunity to change. The way I write a lyric, I don't come to a song with any preconceived ideas about what I want to write about. In fact, I have a journal of ideas.
Right.
But I never have the opportunity to go to the journal to say, okay, I want this song to be about this, and plug it in. The song tells me what it wants to be about. The energy of the song, the colors, the shapes of the chords, they dictate the mood, and from that, these words start to formulate, and the nonsensical words that I start with begin forming.
Yeah,
and then I record everything, and then I go back and I listen, and it's like my subconscious has already planted the seeds, and I'll go back through and I'll listen, and bam, I sang Valentina. I had no idea where that comes from, but great. Then I start to pull out what those initial seeds of inspiration where even though I wasn't even aware of it when it was happening.
Oh, that's great. Given the fact that the album is a composite of 3 different gigs, did you still in any sense try to adhere to a rough outline of what your normal set list is?
Yeah, that was another thing we talked about too, like how closely should the live album stay to the live show, but because we do mix it up with the live show, I'm not an artist who has one set through an entire tour. You know, because we have a lot of fans that actually come to a lot of our shows, and I want to keep it, you know, interesting, and I want to keep surprising people.
Yeah.
You know, so we do mix it up. So we weren't limited to any particular running order.
Okay, let's play another song. This is called Ain't Got No Money. That was Sari Schorr and Ain't Got No Money. Another great track from the Live in Europe album on Manhattan Records. That's another great example of what of your style, really, of a track full of bristling dynamics, great band interplay, and your soaring vocal. That must be one of the first songs, I imagine, you put on a set list and don't very often leave off.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. It's a really fun one to play live too, because everyone can relate to it. You know, I wrote, you know, it was inspired when I was living in Paris and literally only had a €1.10 to live on a day, and that was enough for an espresso and a croissant at the bar. So it's like, and you know, but it's fun to play now because those were really great days, and I've got wonderful memories. And you know, there's a lot of joy in being a struggling artist when you are able to come through it and, you know, enjoy the success we're having now. So it really makes everything worthwhile.
Well, I guess, you know, you've pointed to the fact that a song like that would fit into a kind of space that you've been in before, whether you got money or otherwise. But it's a song full of emotion and power. Do you sometimes, as a songwriter or even a singer, feel out of step with an industry that is often more interested in the formulaic and accountants, really?
It's amazing that you would ask me this question today, because this morning I was looking. Someone sent me something from Germany. All these, pop artists doing this video together, and you know, I was thinking about the difference between art and commerce. Right. And although sometimes it's a perfect marriage between both, and great art can become commercially viable, unfortunately, so often, and I've heard such wonderful musicians that never had a chance to become commercially viable and weren't able to go on to have successful careers, and it's heartbreaking. And you know, just this morning I was thinking, you know, life is sort of like this multi-dimensional chess set, and we all live on the plane that we choose to exist. And you know, there are, and all of these different levels are equally viable, and they're all okay. You just have to choose where you're comfortable. And for me, I am more comfortable existing in a plane where art is the priority, and if it can become successful, then that's a blessing. Yeah. But I have to stay motivated to try to create something of value, not necessarily something of commercial success.
Well, something with integrity is the word you
Exactly.
need, really, I guess. But now you started off, you started getting some profile gigs with playing with Joe Louis Walker. I think that's when you were in Paris, and later Papa Chubby.
Yeah.
Did you still have ambitions then to have your own solo career at that point?
No, in fact, I loved being a part of Joe's band in particular, being a part of this big operation, this sense of family, and in a support role, which I was very, very comfortable in. I honestly couldn't imagine how Joe could do television, do radio interviews, and then do a show. And I thought I could never do that.
Right.
And if it wasn't for Mike Vernon saying, has anyone recorded a record with you?
Yeah.
And him saying, I'm coming out of retirement to do this because you need to be heard. And he gave me the confidence and the belief in myself to do it. And now that I'm doing it, and I have my own family and my own incredible supportive team, it's so much easier than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Because,
But did he see you as being a rock blues singer then as well?
Yeah. And it was because, I'm a very passionate person, and even when I was a little girl, my grandmother, who wanted to be a singer, was really worried that I was a very depressed child, and she would talk to my parents about her concern for me. And I wish I could tell her now, Grandma, I was okay. I had the blues.
Yeah, too true.
So I was a blues singer even before I understood what it meant.
Okay, we're gonna play out with your cover of Willie Dixon's "I Want to Make Love to You," which is completely transformed, as you'll hear in a moment, into a funky arrangement by a road-tested band. So I guess that arrangement does owe quite a bit to Ash Wilson and the boys, does it?
It most certainly does. Yeah, that's the thing when you work with musicians, like Ash Wilson, Matt Biebel, Bob Fritzema, Roy Martin. We have Stevie Watts also. We work with Adrian Gautry as well. When you work with guys like this, everything is possible. And, Ash had this fabulous idea about, the approach for the song. And, you've got a really supportive bunch of musicians there who really have a deep love for each other. So, they were able to help support Ash's vision on this. And, yeah. I just love it. It's a highlight for me.
It's also the kind of song that you can put your own stamp on it as an interpretive singer, of course.
Well, that's the thing. When you do covers, my feeling is you don't try to do better than the original. Do different.
You're
a different artist.
Yeah.
Speak the song in your own voice. And put something of yourself into it. Otherwise, I don't really think there's a point in doing a cover in the same way as the original. Everyone has the original. They don't need another version.
I think when we play this now, everybody will realise exactly what you're talking about. Okay, before we go, just give us your social media links so folks can check out the album, merch, and maybe even some gigs in the distant future.
Oh, wonderful. It's SariSchorr.com and Manhattan Records. It's Manhattan Records. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Sari Schorr. We'd love to see you anywhere on social media, but most of all, we'd love to see you when we all get through this. And we'll be celebrating the joy of being in each other's company again, I hope, before we know it.
Absolutely. Thanks again for being on the show. Absolutely brilliant.
Kate, it's such a pleasure. Thank you, and thanks for all you do to support the blues.
Thanks for listening, and good night.
And for the past 30 minutes or so, you've been listening to Sari Schorr in conversation with Pete Feenstra, first broadcast on Get Ready to Rock Radio on Sunday, the 12th of April 2020. And you can find out more information about Pete and his shows at Get Ready to Rock Radio via the website. Listen again via the Mixcloud player and check out playlists, all happening at getreadytorockradio.com. From all of us here at Get Ready to Rock, we hope you've enjoyed listening to this interview, and we hope you'll check out a few more in the future. From me, David Randall, from all of us here, thank you for listening.